Welcome, Jason, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Angerot, this new album, Cell Phone, and more things related to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band in the last couple of years? Because your previous album was released 2 years ago, The Profound Recreant.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, first of all. Doing great here today. I'm here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the USA. So I'm in the Midwest. Weather's pretty warm and everything. So yeah, we're excited. We're on to album number 4 for Angerot. So yeah, this is it's called Ceophon and came out July 11th on Redefining Darkness Records. And yeah, we're super excited about it and super excited to talk about it. Whatever questions you have, my friend.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, let's start then with one question. So, when do you decide writing songs for this new album? It was during composition for the previous album, or all the songs completely new? Perhaps do you rescue any composition that were out for the previous one?
Well, that's a great question, and it's kind of a funny answer because here's the honest answer. The honest answer is we actually have a full album, our next album of songs completely written, drums are done. So we actually started that album before we started this one, and then we had this kind of epiphany of doing like an EP because we had to, you can't spread out releases too quickly. So you want to put about a couple years in between them. I mean, some bands do it, but it's just better to let the album cycle stretch out a little bit. So we just decided that we wanted to do like an EP, and we kind of joke within the band because we've had about 2 or 3, we'll call them failed EP attempts, because I mean this new album Ceophone is 7 songs, so it's not really an EP because it's 33 minutes. It's kind of in that in between gray area. So we have this new batch of songs written, and we just decided to kind of roll things back and go, okay, we're gonna write some brand new songs. And I'm sure, I don't know if you know the story, but this album has 7 different drummers on them. So that came to be because we lost our drummer, and being where we're at, you got kind of 2 scenarios. You got, the good drummers are already playing in 2 or 3 bands, and they're hard to get to, commit to anything more because they're spread pretty thin. And there's just not a lot around our area here. So we just decided, we've had a history of using guest musicians. I'm sure, if you've listened to us, all your fans and stuff, they would probably know that, each album we've had certain guests, but we've never had a guest drummer before. So yeah, we just decided to do, let's take on this project to do 1 drummer per song. We're going to give them the song. We're going to write the song, give them a click track, and it's their perception, and they can do what they want with it. And man, it was kind of a crazy process because we got 7 different drummers from 7 different studios using 7 different microphones, 7 different sounds, and our engineer had to put it all together and make it sound cohesive.
Okay, well, okay. That's interesting to know, because the next question goes to that. So why you in this situation, for why you did just guest 7 different drummers for each song? Because usually when you present a guest, it's just 1 or 2 songs, or 1 guest for 1 song or something like that. But you decide to try different drummers, different styles in the 7 songs.
Well, it's because I guess I'll say it like this: is that first of all, we just kind of came up with this idea, and it's like, correct me if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think something like this has ever been done before that we are aware of. So we're like, that's kind of neat that it's, to our knowledge, it's never been done before. So and we just thought it would be fun, and we just started asking people if they would have an interest in doing it, and we were getting a lot of yeses. And we were originally just going to do 4 songs, like I said, like do like an EP, and we just kept asking people, and they agreed to do it. We're like, well, let's make this something more. So, that was the idea behind it, just to see, just the fact that it never been done before, that we were aware of. And, some of these guys are some pretty heavy hitters in the death metal drumming mecca, we can go through them if you want to, but it's just kind of a neat thing, that we've just kind of expanded on our guest musicians, and so that's why we did it. We just did a show where we brought back our original drummer, so we are working with a drummer again. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. Yes, the seven songs has seven drummers. Two of them are like legendary drummers. Talking about the Derek Roddy and Marco Pitruzzella, because I will know, I will know from them from especially Derek Roddy from the 90s, then Marco Pitruzzella from 2000s, great players. So the other ones are like mostly news in more sense. So in this situation, so do you think that some of them, so of these drummer players, so has a special touch because when I try to find something, I recognize the touch for Derek Roddy since the 90s, so it's impossible to not to know who played that song. But the other songs are but different kind of drummers. So for you, um, which was the best for you recording the songs for which drummer for you it was the best?
oh boy, I mean, they all brought something different. I guess I'll give you a cop out answer. I don't really want to say I have a favorite necessarily, but what they brought to the table,
Mhm.
just individually, I think, knowing all of these drummers and their history, it's kind of like what I guess you'd say what they gave us is what I know them as, and that's why we asked them, but I mean, I think the Pierce Williams song. Pierce is from formerly of Skeletal Remains. Um, is kind of a favorite song of mine, just in general. I love Derek Roddy's song. It's called "When Witches Dance." I think
Mhm.
probably the most. I mean, there's some unique moments drumming wise that's never been done in an Angerot song before. So Kevin Paradas is on the first track.
Mhm.
Uh, and he's formerly from Benighted, and he's currently on tour, been touring with Aborted. Um, there's some Gravity Blast in there, stuff like that that's never been done in Angerot before. So yeah, I just think they brought in, and then we're getting some feedback on some of the reviews, and one of them that we're really getting some feedback on is actually from Thomas Haywood, which is he's actually owns our record label, which is Refining Darkness Records. He's also a musician and a drummer. He
Mhm.
did one of the songs, and it's a real, it's kind of like a jazz influenced death metal track. I mean, he's got a lot of ghost notes and the drums on there, and it's a really unique drumming song. So yeah, for different reasons, they're that one kind of, I'll say that one surprised me the most because I wasn't totally familiar with Thomas's drumming style because I don't think he's been on a lot of stuff on album. But so that one kind of surprised me. I will say that it was very cool.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, well, I supposedly that you in the prom you we if we are talking about especially for the promotion of this new album now for cell phone because this album was released just 1 week more than 2 weeks ago now. So in this situation, what kind of plan do you have for this album and how do you figure out because each drummer has a different taste and their a
Yeah.
technique. So which drummer will replace all this one in just one?
No, that's a good question. I mean, we're not, some of these we won't be able to translate to probably to the live stage necessarily, which I guess for I guess any album cycle. I mean, a band's only going to do a handful of songs from each album. Now we got 4 albums. I mean, we aren't a band that does play live a ton. We do some shows, but at this point, I think we're just going to kind of wait and see as far as. I mean, there's some, we have some talks of doing some maybe some mini runs, and we'll figure that out. But we did at our album release show, we did some. Uh, we actually did a brand new song. But we kind of stuck to some of our older stuff for that show too, just as kind of that our original drummer hadn't played with us since 2019, so it was kind of getting him back in the fold.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a valid question. It's hard knowing kind of what's gonna translate, but I think we have a pretty good idea because some of these tracks are, I mean, they're kind of next level drumming, and I'm not saying. I mean, it takes a next level drummer to pull off some of this stuff, which is, they're not a dime a dozen. So we understand that, but we wanted to first and foremost give this album with all these influences on there and these different drummers. So that was the main focus anyway. So
Hmm. Okay, okay, I understand about this one. So now we'll focus more on this topic about the reception of this cell phone. How it was the reception until now, because the album is 2 weeks older, or will be 2 weeks older for this one. And how was the reception? The about the comment, the people, the reviews, and obviously, and how do you take a bad review, for example?
yeah, I mean, we've had a ton of reviews so far, and some bands will say I don't really read reviews. I mean, I do. I like to see what people say. What they like or what they don't like or whatever. Because I mean, I think it's good to try to connect with what. I mean, I like to know what people think of the music that I'm creating. So I don't totally avoid those. So far it's been very good. We've been mentioned in some you know I'm trying to think of the guys at the Banger TV just mentioned the album. We've had some reviews of just the album only with some pretty big YouTube shows and stuff like that. So there has been. I mean, it's a different album from our last one from the standpoint of it's
Mhm.
it's it's a little more raw. We don't have any orchestration this time, which was intentional.
Mhm.
In our last two albums before that, we had quite a bit of instrumentation from keyboards and of operatic vocals, and
Mhm.
we started kind of incorporating a little bit of black metal elements
Mhm.
on our previous two, and this we don't have any of the symphonic elements on this one intentionally, but we're going to get back to it. But so I mean, overall, it's been very good. I've seen a lot of 4 to 5 stars kind of a thing. I haven't had really anybody say that they don't like it that I have heard. So basically all positive at this point. So very grateful for that.
Hmm. Okay, okay, okay. So now we're talking about a more about the well, and about this especially for the conception of the cover art and more things related with the lyrics, because well, I saw that what it means exactly, cell phone, because I tried to find more information on the internet, on Google, but there is a little different opinions about this band. But as you are the band and the creator of the band, so what is exactly meaning the word cell phone? Perhaps it's two words union in one, or and what how do you relate the name? And also I think it is, and how do you relate the name of the album with the cover art with the skull on it?
Well, honestly, I'm trying to remember what Seaphon is actually. What the meaning of it is very simple. It just means seven. That's really all it means. So nothing really deeper than that. We kind of got into a pattern with our first three albums. I mean, I'll just kind of run through it really quickly. We had our first album was The Splendid Iniquity from 2018. Then we did in 2020 we did The Divine Apostate.
Mhm.
2022 we did The Profound Recreant. So we kind
Mhm.
of got into a pattern where we were naming our albums The
Mhm.
something. So we kind of wanted to take this album and just we wanted to be different. We didn't want to. We thought we'd probably go down that road, indefinitely, but we're just like, no, let's just. So that's all that means is Saphon is just the meaning is just simply seven. Is all that means. So nothing real deep to be honest with you on that.
Well, okay, okay. Well, that's well interesting
But
because the next question.
I did think of where it's an old English.
Mm,
It's Saphon is the old English word for seven. Is the
mm. Okay,
actual
that oh
definition.
oh okay, okay. Well, That's one that once when I'm looking for the information, yes, it was 70, an old
Mm-hmm.
English word. So and for this one, yes, the next question, well, it was about the why do you in the first three albums you used the well the apostrophe the splendid, the divine, the profound. That's all. That's and well for me it's when you find when one record that's completely normal. But when you find this thing in three albums, it means that is something is up, on purpose or intentional about this one. So, and why do you decide to put these three albums like that, and about this?
Yeah, I mean, it was just something that we decided from album number two. Is just we came up with some titles that we really liked, I guess, and we did have I mean, a kind of a master plan with it all. I guess I'll just say it like this:
Mm-hmm.
our original plan was to tie all of the albums that I guess you'd say I
Mm-hmm.
ever do into similar artwork that ties in together. But we've went away from that because I mean, if you look at our first three albums, the artwork was done by the same individual, and this is not. So
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of went away from that. I don't know if we'll get back to it or not at this point, but you know, that was just something that we just thought, well, that really we hadn't really seen that, and we didn't know if anybody. We figured eventually somebody else would pick up on it, but we didn't know if other people would pick up on that. But of course they did, like yourself.
Okay. Okay, well, and you said it. The first three albums is the cover art was created about well with John Sick. And
Mhm.
that's interesting because he's more dedicated to this stuff, to death metal, to brutal death metal stuff. And I saw that that he did a lot of logos from brutal death metal stuff. But then for this cell phone, you decide to change the cover art. So because now the carrier and design handle the process of the cover art for this one. So why you did decide to change the? Well, you said it that is completely changed the
Yeah.
cell phone. So it means could be just the same process with the cover art to take a different painter or a different illustrative to create this cover art.
Well, I mean, so I just as I was kind of saying before, just we wanted to do something different, but just to kind of clarify what Carrion Arts is actually, it's our singer. So
Mm-hmm,
it's C.R. Pettit that
mm-hmm,
he's a very talented graphic artist, and he does all of our layouts and stuff. So he's very good at this stuff. So we just decided to this time. I guess you'd say maybe part of it was to save a little bit of money with the art part, and that's not the main reason. I mean, we just wanted to do something different. So basically, we did this art ourselves this time,
mm-hmm.
headed up by our singer. So that's him.
Okay, okay, I understand. So now let's take a look more. Well, let's talk about a little far away from the Angerot concept, from this cell phone concept, and well, let's more focus on this one. So now USA all the time has a personal sound since the 90s or the 80s and 90s. As you can see, there is like three or four scenes more, like talking about United Kingdom, Finland, Swedish, Brazil, and like this is like the five four are like the five best scenes into the death metal is these five: United States, United Kingdom, Finland, England, and Sweden. So that's the five best scene in, and we when we are talking about the death metal. The other scenes has great albums, great bands, but not as sound created with these countries. So now we are with a lot of populated albums, records, bands. You see, each weekend is like 50 city release per weekends. I ask this situation to people for cancer, to people for benediction, or all people that it was that they were there when this stuff created or exploded at the ends of the 80s or beginnings of 90s. So now, do you think that in the future a new scene will rise with a different sound into the death metal that we can possibly recognize? Hey, this sound is from Japan. This sound is from I don't know from Chile. This kind of stuff.
Wow. I mean, that's a good question. I like to. I mean, I like to think that um, metal will always try to evolve in some way, shape, or form. What will stick as far as like you said, like a scene.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. I mean, it's I sometimes I wonder what we kind of talk about is the future of this stuff in good hands with and I'll call them the quite a bit younger generation. I'm not talking 35-year olds. I'm talking like teenagers and stuff like that. Are they gonna pick up on this and continue this trend? I mean, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I talk to people um, that record, that do recording and stuff like that, and they're recording younger bands and they're very talented. So I don't think we see it really around here as much. There's not a ton of younger bands in our area that we see, anyway. But yeah, I mean, and I guess I think it's just getting, thinking outside of the box a little bit. I mean, I think a lot of us we're not necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, I guess that's why kind of we went and decided. So our first album was very traditional HM2 Swedish death metal. I mean, that's what we set out to do. But right away we thought, okay, we did that. Now we want to add some other things to it. So that's when we started adding orchestration, operatic vocals, clean vocals once in a while. We get our guests on there. So I'm not saying we're doing something that nobody else has done, but we're trying to take an HM2 style band and add some other elements to it. So I think if there's bands out there trying to be creative and trying new things, and I think they'll always be. I mean, I look at the last 10 years. I don't know when the style of like a deathcore started technically, but that's something that didn't exist 20 years ago. Nobody used that term. So I think there's going to be, although there was bands that were playing in that style of music, they just didn't call it that, I suppose, yet. Disgorge, Suffocation was probably early. It's not, I wouldn't call Stern Suffocation is not deathcore, but they were doing that slam type stuff before really anybody else was, in my opinion. So I think that I hope so. I hope there's new types of new scenes and new new parts of the country that get known for certain things and stuff like that. I hope so. I really do, and I think it'll happen. So.
Okay, I understand for this. And well, we are very close to this interview, Jason. And one of the question for one of the last question, it is, so as you can see all the time, well, when we are talking out from the metal, when we are talking out from the power metal, heavy metal, thrash metal, speed metal, this kind of stuff, metal is belongs to the 80s, belongs to the 70s for the kind of music. But then the death metal started at the ends of the 80s and mostly exploded at the beginnings of 90s. And I remember I was there because and a lot of bands appear with technicism. There's a lot of bands appear on experimental, avant-garde, technical, progressive. You can see Nocturnus, Suffocation, Brutal Truth. You can see there is a lot, and a lot of bands mixture a lot of stuff into the death metal. So that's a curious thing because all the time the death metal it was like the style that is possible to mix or to mix with an or fusion with another styles. You can see during the 90s it was released like for example 100 releases mixing everything folk, industrial, and just the death metal. And when this approach, the death metal also brings this new thing in the metal, because now, thanks to the death metal, the new bands are so technical, so technical, great records, great musicians, etc., 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 etc. for this one. So now, what do you think about now this perfection in the music? Thanks to the death metal, because the death metal brings the technicality in the metal world.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's not really what we do, but I can totally appreciate that style. I probably can't play that stuff, but I've been in bands that are a little more technical than Angerot, I guess. But I mean, it's just, I mean, so I guess I'll say it like this: we're older guys, so we have been playing in the death metal scene, in our area, since the late 80s, early 90s. Some of our first death metal bands were started at the infancy of death metal. I got into death metal when I was 17, I think. So we're talking 1990s, as I was 17 in 1990. So, so I grew up with it, and it's obviously changed a ton. And I tend to gravitate to a lot towards a lot of those older albums. But um, how you make albums between now and then is completely different. I mean,
Mhm.
you can make an album be perfect and have, you know, you probably, recording to what they call the grid and all this and that, and that's fine and dandy. And sometimes there's a need to do that, and we use click tracks just out of necessity because, I mean, we're working with 7 drummers. We got to
Mhm.
give them a map of the songs to know, where to go with it, and that and a lot of people want to use click tracks. So, but we try to let the music breathe. They talk about push and pull in even metal and stuff, meaning that it's not straight to the grid, and there's kind of a human feel to. So push and pull obviously comes from the drums and everything, but so we try to keep it a little bit of everything in there as far as, we use click tracks out of necessity, but we want it to be raw. We want it to have some life. We want it to push and pull. So I commend bands that want to be to the grid, and stuff like that. And if they over edit, that's not for me to say. So I can appreciate it all. I mean, there's a lot of those bands I listen to be honest with you, whether it's Necrophagist or, sometimes I go off on a tangent. And you talked about Marco, his old band Brain Drill. He
Mhm.
probably, they're they're something else. He's an astonishing drummer, with the things that he can do. So yeah, I really I'm a fan of a lot of it. I try to keep up with the newer bands and stuff. It's hard to do, but I've always tried to really stay up on what's happening in the metal scene, the death metal scene, and
Mhm.
everything. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, okay. And the last question for this one will be, so, and why do you think always the death metal has this speciality to mix with another styles? Because when you can hear the heavy metal in the 80s or the hard rock or the power metal, at the 80s, these styles didn't have an special mix with another styles. But the death metal in the 90s opened a book to mix wherever they want,
Yeah.
atmospheric, progressive, technical. So what do you think? Just only the death metal has that this kind of thing that can mix with everyone. Not the black metal, just the death metal, because the black metal is not like the same. Black metal is like different, more like the philosophic thing. But in this situation with the death metal, is more musical than philosophic stuff. So, and for this one, why do you think just death metal brings this option to mix with anything else?
Okay. It's good. Okay. Well, I think it's a lot of I'll just say a lot of us musicians. I
Mhm.
think we grew up on a lot of that stuff that from the other things you're talking about. So, and I think at the end of the day, I don't. Most musicians that I know, including myself, yes, we like extremely brutal music, but there's a lot of us that really like melody. I mean, it's as weird as that sounds, having ultra heavy music and melody to me is key because I mean that's where your hooks come from, a lot of times. So I mean, if you listen to Angerot, we got a ton of melody moments in our music. So I just think it's because of probably their influence, their background. I think you'd be surprised how many death metal people like non-death metal music, including myself. I listen to a lot of 70s mellow music and so we just like to put I think we all wear our influences on our sleeve and we want to be better at our instruments. So if we can shine and have an acoustic interlude somewhere or something like that, that's maybe atmospheric or dark sounding, it just adds atmosphere. I think the more you can do, the more potential you can add atmosphere. I mean, if you're just playing, tremolo picking fast songs, I mean, I don't think that sometimes there's always a lot of atmosphere there, and that's fine too. I love that stuff too. But so that's my thoughts on it. Yep.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Well, Jason, we arrived to the sad moment of this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. This new album is a great one. Congratulations on this new one. It's a beast. And perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans and obviously Metallerium followers.
Absolutely. So you won't be able to see this probably, but here's the album. It's very dark. I get that. So we just released it. Redefining Darkness Records. July 11th it came out. You can check out all things Angerot at it's really simple, angerot.com. That'll take you to our Bandcamp page. You can listen to all our albums. You can download all our albums. We got tons of merch there. Yeah, check it out. We appreciate all you fans over in Latin America and for checking us out, supporting us. And hopefully someday we can make it over there. That would be incredible.